Welcome to a very special broadcast. This is the world's largest CPR class coming to you from Birkenhead Point Shopping Centre on beautiful Sydney Harbour. Spread throughout the centre are 5 very important devices known as AEDs, automated external defibrillators. We're going to see just how critical this equipment can be, so stay tuned to see how you could save a life. Hi there, I'm Richard Wilkins, and joining me is the original Yellow Wiggle. Am I still allowed to call you that?
Indeed you are.
Greg Page, it's great to see you, mate.
Great to be
You've
here.
been very open about your story, Greg, but few would be aware that you are also the founder of Heart of the Nation, a charity raising awareness about sudden cardiac arrest and the chain of survival.
Yeah, that's right, Richard. Look, it's very important. Tomorrow, being Restart a Heart Day, makes today a great day to learn about CPR and the chain of survival if someone near you has a sudden cardiac arrest. Call, push, shock. Call immediately, dial 000, push, start CPR, and shock using an AED.
Yeah, they are 3 very important words. We're going to be sharing some incredibly powerful stories and some really important information that'll help you feel empowered and confident to perform CPR and use an AED because, Greg, every second counts, right?
That's right. Knowing how and when to do CPR and use an AED can drastically increase survival rates. So our goal today is to get as many of you at home practicing CPR on your soccer balls, your cushions, your pillows, anything at all, because you are the first responders when it comes to cardiac arrest. The only wrong thing to do is nothing.
Yeah. For all of the information, scan this QR code throughout the show and take a look at the Heart of the Nation website. But don't go anywhere because today's show might just save a life. 27,000 families right around the country are affected by sudden cardiac arrest each year. That's 3 Aussies every hour. Today, on the world's largest CPR class, you'll learn how to perform CPR alongside some very familiar faces. You'll meet some amazing survivors of sudden cardiac arrest and some inspiring families of those who didn't survive. We're going to show you how easy it is to try and save a life as we conduct the world's largest CPR class. It is a big show today, and you won't walk away empty-handed. If you stick around, by the end of the program, you will have learnt enough to get yourself one of these certificates. So stay tuned to learn about the chain of survival, how to do CPR, and then head to the website or scan this QR code to quickly test your knowledge and get your certificate.
It's so easy to learn these skills, Richard, but you don't need a certificate or a qualification to save a life. All you need to know is the chain of survival. We really just need more people giving CPR a go and being able to access a working AED at the right time. Any attempt at resuscitation is better than no attempt.
Well, Greg, you'll be very happy to see what Emma Lawrence is up to right now inside Birkenhead Point Shopping Centre. Emma, I believe you're taking Greg's advice and giving it a go as we speak.
That is right, Richard. I've been getting the reps in today, and I tell you what, I'm feeling pretty confident now, but how good is this? We are in the middle of Birkenhead Point Shopping Centre. I have Dan Gay with me from Surf Life Saving New South Wales. Dan, how crucial are these small steps to help save a life?
These little steps can be so important when we consider that any attempt is better than no attempt. But if we can get the compression point right and a good pace, everything helps increase that chance of survival.
Now, you've brought some celebrities along. We've got Rachel and Ryan from the block. Guys, tell me, Rachel, did you know a lot about this process? Because I know I didn't before I came.
I didn't know, and the staying alive part, doing it to the song Staying Alive, that is such good information. That's all I'm seeing over and over in my head. I would never have known that.
Is it simple? Like, do you feel confident knowing that once you've got the steps, you could do it if it happened here?
Absolutely. You know, all you need is a tiny little bit of advice and then you can save someone's life quite easily.
That's the aim. It's simple. We want everyone to get involved. I'm going to let you two keep practicing. Dan, you have to stick around because Richard, coming up a little bit later in the show, we are going to deliver the world's largest CPR class.
Thank you, Emma. That is great to see, isn't it, Greg? Because we know that when all of the links in the chain of survival are present, survival rates can be as high as 70%, and that is an incredible statistic.
It's amazing, yes. When somebody receives their first shock from a member of the public using an AED, rather than waiting for the ambulance to arrive, we've seen survival rates in Australia as high as 65 to 72%.
And that really does say it all, doesn't it? We just need more of you equipped with the right knowledge so that there's always someone in the right place at the right time. But as we know, saving a life begins with that call to 000.
Yes, indeed. When you find someone who's not responding, that is, you can't wake them up, call 000 and send for an AED straight away.
And Greg, that is precisely what saved your life, really, isn't it? An immediate call to 000 from bystanders, people who knew what to do when you were just not responding.
That's right, mate. There were 4 amazing people who worked on me for about 13 minutes while the ambulances made their way. And we've got 2 of them here with us today, Kim Antonelli and Grace Jones.
Yay.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Good.
Thank you for being here.
Big round of applause.
Indeed. Thank you for
Well
being
done.
here, and because of what you guys did, I'm here today to help tell this story. Now, it does come down to that call to 000. That's the first thing that needs to happen. So, Kim, do you know who made that first call to 000?
It was one of the ladies, actually, that was at the venue that was hosting that. She rang the 000 for you because she could tell that you just weren't responding.
Right, and then when you came on the scene, what did you see or what did you find?
Firstly, it was the colour of your skin. You were a bluish, greyish colour, and then when I checked your pulse, you had no pulse. So I immediately knew that we had to do CPR on you straight away.
Right,
Yeah.
it's quite weird hearing this
Yeah.
come back because I don't know anything about what happened. So you started CPR, and I guess the main message here is that when you find somebody who's not breathing, get the CPR going straight away. Now, you had done training in CPR.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to have worked for the education department in which we do that every year. So never think you'd have to use it, but of course it just comes to you straight away.
Yeah.
And you just started working with the guys.
Yeah. I'd only been there for I think 2 months previously.
Oh, the old time.
Yeah.
Well, right place, right time. So thank you for stepping in to do that. Now, Grace, you went for a night out to watch the Wiggles perform.
Did, yeah, just with the family.
And you weren't expecting that you might have to save somebody's life.
Not at all, no.
So how was that? Talk me through that.
It was really intense. Yeah, very intense. It's definitely not what I expected to happen when I went, but very fulfilling as well. And it was such a good outcome that, I was very glad I'm there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when they handed you that AED, even though you're a nurse, did you know what to do with that particular device?
No, I didn't. I've never used that device before. The ones we have at work are incredibly different.
Like hospital grade stuff?
Hospital grade, very, very different. So I'd never used one before, but it's so easy to use. It just talks you through it. The person that's recorded speaks to you and tells you how to do CPR, and if you're going too fast, too slow, when to shock, and everything like that. It's so easy to use.
And I think that's one thing that's really important for people to understand. When we watch movies and TV shows, we see those big defibrillators that paramedics and doctors and nurses use. These are not those devices, and what you've just said is testament to that fact. It's different to the hospital stuff. These are designed for everyday people to use.
Yeah, super easy.
So you don't have to be a doctor or a nurse to save a life.
Not at all.
It can be anyone.
How does it feel for you to be talking about the moment you could have left us that was saved by these 2 amazing people?
It's kind of weird. We've spoken many times about it before, and just to hear it come back, I'm always comfortable to talk about it, but when I talk to these people, the ones who actually did what they did, I always get quite emotional because it does, it's like, it's one thing to have been resuscitated by people, but to be in their presence is quite awe-inspiring.
I hadn't heard that about the changing colour of his skin before.
Yeah, it's a terrible colour. It's a colour I hope I never have to witness again.
Because there are lots of colours at a Wiggles concert. And, you're wearing your yellow skivvy, but we're going all sorts of different colours. Well, look, a huge thanks to both of you for joining us today, and thanks again for stepping in when you did and saving a beautiful life. Give them a round of applause, please.
Thank you.
Gee, you really were in the right place at the right time, Greg, but that AED and people knowing where it was played such a critical role. So how do we know where to find an AED in the community when we're out and about?
Well, the easiest way is just to keep your eyes peeled for them. Heart of the Nation tries to make it easier by providing these bright yellow stickers that can be placed on the front door or window of locations that have an AED, so more people can be aware of where to find them, even if they never set foot inside that location.
And it is all about awareness, isn't it, Greg? It begins with people knowing about this cause and the fact that they can play their part.
Absolutely. So if you have an AED at your workplace, shop or anywhere, register it with Heart of the Nation. It's a national network of AED locations and it's free to join. help people locate an AED when it's needed. We'll also show your location on the Heart of the Nation app. Download it today from Google Play or the App Store.
Well, one Heart of the Nation network member is Bunnings Warehouse, and it was one of their AEDs that features in this next incredible story of survival. David Rain met up with Helen Robinson to tell her story.
I was dead in my car and Steve pulled me from the car, and that's, what I'm just about to see is where that happened, because I drive past it wondering all the time, and this is it just here. See, my stomach's just turned.
Let's talk about the event then. What happened on that day?
Well, I was going to Melbourne to take my daughter to an appointment, and I didn't feel well, so I was driving down and I saw an old neighbour down the road, and he said, "You don't look very well, you should go home." And
Nice of him.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I didn't listen to him, because I would have come home and I would have died here. I got down to just near the Bunnings. That's the last thing I can remember. And I must have turned around, and then I was coming back towards home, and that's when the lady that was driving behind me noticed that I was driving very slowly, and I veered off the road and I smacked into a tree. And then she ran to the road and pulled up Steve, who is now a really great friend of mine. He's an off-duty fireman. Thank God for Steve. He pulled me from the car. I'd actually passed away, and he saved my life.
How are you going? It's an absolute pleasure to see you. Oh my God.
I was coming down to the family holiday house, and that's when I came across Carly, who was waving frantically. As I drove past, saw Helen's car down in a ditch, and I assumed that there was some sort of a car accident. So did an immediate U-turn. That's when I came across Ben, who had the door open and established that she had no pulse. Ben and I immediately extracted her from the car, and I commenced CPR. Had Carly ring 000, and I sent Ben up to the Bunnings, which I'd just driven past, because I knew they had an AED in the foyer, so urgently dispatched him to go and collect that for me.
Ben, he was a tradie guy that pulled up, then he was the one that went to Bunnings to get the defibrillator.
Right.
And he made a decision as to whether to keep on working or go and have lunch, and thank God he decided lunch. This is the first time I'm actually going to be going back there and getting out of the car.
How do you feel about what we're about to do?
I'm emotional. I'm a little bit nervous, but I know I've got Steve there. To be honest, the first time I drove past, I was really emotional. I actually felt physically sick.
Yeah.
And I thought, that could be like my memorial place, like with the flowers, and that my family could have been coming there and, laying flowers down.
But they're not.
But they're not.
Yes.
They're
That's
not.
the thing to focus on, isn't it?
Yeah. So it was just here that it happened.
Now it's going to start.
Sorry? No? It's a big thing you're doing. Just take your time. You don't have to go there if you don't want to.
No, I have to. I'll just go to Steve.
How do you feel?
Okay, because I'm
Pretty
looking at
overwhelming,
these
isn't
two. Yeah.
So Steve and Ben, g'day Ben. Where exactly did this take place?
Helen's car had drifted off the road and it just sort of nudged up into the tree.
Right.
Just to our right here.
What do you remember when you arrived?
I remember coming from that way and seeing Carly's car, which I thought was a bit odd, being just parked on the side of the road there, and Helen's car down in the ditch. Once I realised that Helen's car was impacted by the tree and there was someone in it, I hit the brakes and jumped over straight away and came over and came to the car and saw Helen.
Yeah. What's it like to see Helen today?
I don't feel like I did much, but it was good to be a part of it.
He's totally underselling himself.
Yeah.
He was the first to sort of get to Helen. He got the door open, and that's when I sort of came along.
And since all this happened, what do you know about CPR and the necessity to respond?
I know you've got to be quick.
Yeah.
That's the main thing, and start CPR as soon as possible.
Yeah. I imagine in a situation like this as well, that a lot of people would panic. It sounds like you lucked out with people that didn't panic, that actually just got the job done.
I'm so lucky, I'm so grateful that these people were here and knew CPR defibrillator down at Bunnings, and, you know, I'm here today because of that.
Well done, you lot, well done. That's fabulous. It's great to know that humans like you exist, isn't it?
Thank you.
Well, powerful stories such as that are the reason we're here today, Greg. A very special thanks to Helen for sharing her experience with us.
You can certainly see how being in the right place at the right time can help your chances of surviving.
Yep, indeed you can. More incredible stories just like that are still to come, and your opportunity to learn CPR right there in your living room is not far away. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us and learn how you could help save a life.
Each year, 27,000 Australians suffer a sudden cardiac arrest, and around 80% of those occur in the home. It's not every day that you can say you learnt how to help save lives.
But today, during the world's largest CPR class, it just might be that day. Thank you for watching the world's largest CPR class, creating awareness of the chain of survival. Call, push, shock during the month of Shocktober.
Welcome back to the world's largest CPR class, coming to you from Birkenhead Point Shopping Centre on magnificent Sydney Harbour. Now you're looking at Dan Gave from Surf Lifesaving New South Wales, inside with shoppers, teaching them all the chain of survival. Call, push, shock.
If you take anything away today, Richard, it's those three words. Actually, since our world's largest CPR class last year, one of our Heart of the Nation locations has had another success story, with another one of their AEDs being used to save a life. So that's now 2 lives saved.
Yep, our friends at New Sunrise have 400 independent service stations and convenience stores around Australia with AEDs. Next time you go to the servo, look out for the Heart of the Nation stickers on their doors and pumps.
It's a huge life-saving commitment from this company, and the man leading the charge is Steve Cardinale, CEO of New Sunrise. G'day, Steve.
G'day, Steve. Big round of applause for Steve.
Steve, it's a huge commitment. What inspired this from you?
Well, we're a group of family-operated service stations, independently owned service stations, and then we're all over Australia. So we're centrally located. We serve tens of thousands of people a day, and many cars pass across our service stations. So we thought it just made good sense for us to give another service to our community by putting AEDs into our stores.
Wow, well, it is incredible. Brilliant. And as we heard, it's already saved at least 2 lives that you know of. So tell us what happened in Sydney a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago on a Thursday night, a man came into our service station, had a cardiac arrest. The service station owner was there and knew exactly what to do. Employed the AED, and the paramedics came along later and they confirmed the quick action of that service station owner saved the life of that man.
There you go.
So it's not just you're putting the devices there, but you're training the community to save lives, which is absolutely incredible. And now tell us, how is New Sunrise helping to support Heart of the Nation throughout October?
Well, during October, we've got a series of products. They're on promotion, so they're a great deal, but apart from that, 10 cents of every product sold during October will go towards Heart of the Nation to help build that chain of survival.
What a brilliant initiative. Wonderful.
Now, Steve, personally, what does it mean to you to play your part in the chain of survival?
Well, when we heard about the lives being saved, it literally gave us goosebumps. And it's an incredible feeling to know that you've made a difference in the community. But I think we've all got a part to play, and we're committed to help build that chain of survival. I actually think that every service station should have one of these and join your great cause.
Oh, good on you, mate. Yeah, big hand for Steve Cardinale, everybody. Well, I'll tell you what, we are certainly grateful to have you as part of the Heart of the Nation network, particularly when you see that lives are being saved because of what you're doing. So, well done again.
Yeah, thank you. We've been here a while. Chicken twisty, it's about time, I reckon. I'll certainly be keeping an eye out for those yellow stickers next time I am filling up. Steve, you are a good man. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you being here. Well, Emma Lawrence, knowing where those AEDs are is critical, isn't it?
That is right, Dickie. Knowing where to find an AED is just so important. I cannot stress that enough, because a sudden cardiac arrest doesn't always affect the most obvious victim. It can strike at any moment and any age. So as we head to Melbourne, our next story highlights the importance of knowing where an AED is like this: visible, accessible and actionable. Now, Tony Jones sat down with Jesse Amato to hear an incredible story how he almost lost his life at just 24 years old.
When I'm running, it does feel quite natural to me at the moment, but there's always that thought in the back of my mind that it could happen to me again. A lot of me doesn't want to put my family through that again, but at the same time, I know that what happened to me was extremely unlikely, and I also have my guardian angel being my defibrillator in the chest, and if it did happen again, then it would kick into action, thankfully. There's always that thought in the back of your mind that something like that could happen again, but it's just something that I have to live with and move on and keep living my life as best as I can. There is a mental barrier, of course, considering that last time I was running, it very nearly almost killed me. My last memory of that day really was the car ride on the way to indoor soccer. I remember getting picked up, and I remember sitting in the back seat, listening to music and just laughing and talking with the boys, and that's all.
And that's it?
That's it. The first memory of waking up in hospital is looking at my dad.
At what point did you realise that you'd actually had the cardiac arrest?
No one actually told me. What happened was I read it on a piece of paper. One of the nurses actually wrote down what had happened to me in a nutshell. So it basically said, you're at Royal Melbourne Hospital, you've had a cardiac arrest and you're going to be okay. So when it dawned on me that I actually had a severe heart-related episode, I thought, that's impossible. Couldn't happen to me. Yeah, I quickly realised that health status, age, how well you look after yourself, it doesn't necessarily relate to having a cardiac arrest. It can happen to anyone at any time.
How does it feel to be back where it all happened?
Feels a bit eerie.
Yeah, I received a call from Jesse's friend, Christian, his school friend, and also a teammate. And I knew there was something not quite right, because Jesse's always been a healthy, fit kid. He wasn't the sort of kid that would faint. I just screamed out to my daughter, get in the car, let's head to the stadium.
They saw the paramedics working on me, and I struggle to imagine what that would have been like for them.
I thought the worst, to be honest. But thankfully, you know, it all worked out.
All I can remember is seeing Frank, and I've never saw him look so scared in my life. I saw Jesse on the ground.
The fact that I was at indoor soccer would have been the best place for me to be other than a hospital. Because if it happened here, there's no chance. But being at indoor soccer, was told there, it couldn't have happened in a better place.
Our hero.
Well,
He is, yeah.
He was pretty quick off the mark, so thank God for Todd.
Todd was the one who recognised the telltale signs of cardiac arrest being, no signs of life, basically. He was the first responder who commenced CPR, almost instantly. And he was an opposition player on the field that day, so I couldn't have been more lucky.
So if Todd hadn't have been there, you probably wouldn't be here?
Absolutely. Hey, mate.
Hey, buddy.
Welcome. Hi, mate. You good to see you?
Yeah, good and bad. I was quite close by, so I just ran up to him to see if he was okay. I thought he might have injured himself, but quickly realised that he wasn't breathing. I knew that we had to act fast to get him breathing or, have him having the best chance of surviving this.
But he did CPR for 10 minutes, and I can tell you when I woke up in hospital, his compressions were definitely felt. The defibrillator was on site, but it wasn't easily accessible. In a situation where the defibrillator was easily accessible, that is always the preference over CPR.
Yeah, just knowing where that is so that we can get that AED over to the person in need as quickly as possible will mean that they have the best chance of surviving.
Every single moment is just a pure gift. And when it comes down to it, I'm the luckiest girl in the world. And so, yeah.
How do you feel? You put him through hell.
I know, and he doesn't even remember it. He doesn't remember it. It's a totally different experience that we've both had. He can't even imagine what I would have been like that night, but it was the worst night of my life. And it's one of the things we don't share, in a sense, because he wasn't there.
It just brings you back to the fact that this person actually has a life, has a family. It has real consequences. So this person being alive means a lot to a lot of people. Anyone's capable of learning the skills that I've got and many other people have. The more people that know it, the better. You just might help save a life that day.
Without a doubt, I was given a second chance, and everything lined up perfectly for me that night. I know now how quickly things can be taken away from you, and it can really happen in an instant. So every ordinary day is a great day.
Goodness, what an inspiring young man. And what a terrifying story, Greg.
Yes,
Goodness.
absolutely. Heart of the Nation's mantra when it comes to AEDs is that they must be visible, accessible and actionable. Rescue ready at a moment's notice.
Yep. Stay with us, everyone. Coming up, we're going to talk with Dr. Ross Walker as he breaks down some of the common misconceptions about heart attacks and cardiac arrest. And of course, we are drawing closer to the world's largest CPR class. So get your pillow, your cushion, your soccer ball ready, everybody. Don't go away, because today's show could make all the difference.
Hi, Brooke Boney here. As we're learning today, every hour 3 Australians experience a sudden cardiac arrest. And tragically, 9 out of 10 don't survive. This is your chance to make a difference, and thank you for participating in the world's largest CPR class. You never know, you might just save a life.
Welcome back to the world's largest CPR class. Now, the aim of today is to provide you with the vital skills to help save a life if someone suffers a sudden cardiac arrest. Now, you are probably more familiar with the term heart attack, and yes, those are certainly common, but the thing is, not all heart attacks lead to cardiac arrests. And on the flip side, not all cardiac arrests are caused by heart attacks. And I know it does sound confusing, but thankfully we have Dr. Ross Walker here with us to hopefully clear things up a bit. Dr. Ross, can you put it simply, what is a heart attack first off?
Yeah, a heart attack's where typically you have fat building up in the wall of the artery. Imagine a donut, the hole where the blood's going, but the fat's in the wall, and that fatty plaque suddenly ruptures and forms a clot that then damages the heart. The heart doesn't have to stop. That's a cardiac arrest when the heart stops, but a heart attack is when the heart's damaged, and sometimes that may lead to a cardiac arrest, but not always.
Not always. What else can lead to a cardiac arrest? How do we best define that?
There are a number of causes. For example, if you get electrocuted, that can stop your heart. That's a cardiac arrest, not a heart attack. But also there are many genetic diseases. So when a younger person, say an athlete, dies playing sport, they typically have a condition called hypertrophic, which means excessive thickening in the heart that can lead to it. Myocarditis, inflammation of the heart muscle. We've heard a lot about that with COVID. That can also lead to a cardiac arrest. And there are other abnormalities of electrics in the heart that can do this as well. So there are a number of causes of cardiac arrest, and certainly not all due to heart attack. But a heart attack may cause a cardiac arrest in some cases.
If someone has had a cardiac arrest, is it obvious? Will I be able to easily tell that that's what it is?
Oh yes, it's a little thing called death. They stop breathing, their pulse doesn't work, they go grey. So yes, it is very, very easy to diagnose. The person is dead basically, and you need to resuscitate them immediately.
Immediately, okay. And if it's a heart attack, what do we do if someone suffered a heart attack?
If it's a heart attack, you ring 000, you get the ambulance there immediately, you maintain just the typical things, check their breathing, check their pulse, make sure they're okay, but get the professionals there straight away to give them pain relief and get them to the hospital, because we say in cardiology, time is muscle. So the longer you wait to get to the hospital, the more muscle damage you have and the more problems someone can have in the long term, such as heart failure.
So essentially we just need to get onto something straight away. Just try something to help out. Is that the key message?
Whether it's a heart attack or a cardiac arrest, you need to take action immediately.
Okay. It's a pretty simple message, isn't it? It's
very simple
easy
message.
for anyone.
Don't wait.
Do not wait, okay? Dr. Ross Walker, that is why you are the expert. We really appreciate it. And Greg, I believe you and Richard have guests everywhere today.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, Emma. And we have another one joining us, former Australian cricketer Ryan Campbell, ladies and gentlemen. And you're not just shopping here, mate. A lot of people may not know that just over a year ago, you, like Greg, were a victim of sudden cardiac arrest, lying down in a park. How are things going for you now?
Yeah, really good now. The experience was obviously very surreal. I was with my daughter, thought everything was great, and then literally just lied down, and luckily lied down on the foot of a 4-year-old girl whose mother happened to have just done CPR. It brought me back.
Wow. So did you have any warning signs at all?
None at all. I thought I was fit and healthy. I'd just been to Australia, I'd been to New Zealand touring with the Dutch team, had a week holiday with Mum and Dad, flew home, and I literally can't remember getting on the plane from Amsterdam to England.
Wow.
And that was the day before, and then the things that happened, I woke up a week later.
And so you've been told what took place, basically, yeah.
It's quite harrowing. And the funny thing is for me is being a cricket coach, it's all about numbers and analysing stuff, and I've read the numbers and the numbers weren't stacked in my favour, but for some reason I kept coming back.
Yeah, and look, I think that's the thing. It happens to be the right place at the right time. And for you, as you say, there was somebody there who'd just done their CPR training.
Yeah, her name is Bessie Backett, and I'll always remember her for sure. And I had a coffee with her, you know, when I got out of hospital, and she was just a wonderful lady, and, you know, the timing was right, and, you know, I'll always remember that she was the one that brought me back.
And since your own event, your wife and yourself have done CPR training. How's that impacted you?
Mate, it's fantastic. It was such a great experience for us, learning the ins and outs, and you just feel very empowered. And for her, especially my wife, who obviously spent the week going through hell, it felt that she can give back now, and she has a bit more control of what could happen, and maybe we could help someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that we often forget about is the loved ones and the families of people who go through this, survivors and those who lose loved ones. It's a very, very tough road.
Oh, 100%. You know, like I say, I don't remember anything about that week, but she's gone through a harrowing experience, and it's actually, we've obviously had conversations, but reading an article when she got interviewed and hearing some of the stuff, getting told your husband might need a transplant or this was a life-ending event, she had to go through all that, and, you know, she's a very strong and brave lady, and something hopefully not many other wives will go through.
Yeah, that's right. It's those loved ones that are there to support us, and we're very grateful for that, obviously.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I think one of the tragedies that we've experienced this year is the loss of two great cricketers, Rod Marsh and Shane Warne, from suspected heart events. How's that affected you? I mean, that was before your event.
Yeah, it literally was the month leading in, and you know, obviously they were great people and great friends, and, you know, going through that, you just thought, that can't happen. Rod Marsh, he can't. That can't happen. Can't happen to Warnie. And I guess being another cricketer, I think that's sort of the worldwide exposure that my event got was probably on the back of those. And again, I don't put myself in the bracket of those two guys, but just being a cricketer, and it just kept coming up. Why is it happening? And, you know, we don't have all the answers, but thankfully, a lot of people are doing good stuff like you, and hopefully we can help others.
Well, that's right. We don't have the answers to why everybody drops, but if we can empower people to respond, we can have more right places at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mate, thank you so much for coming along and sharing your incredible story. You look as fit as a fiddle now, I've got to say.
I'm feeling good, and hopefully you guys are going to be barracking for the Dutch in the World Cup.
We'll see about that. Hey, you're such a great advocate for this really important issue, and we want to give you another big round of applause. Thank you so much.
And we can't underestimate the importance of people witnessing cardiac arrests and the role that plays in someone surviving.
Yeah, it's critical really, but with 80% of cardiac arrests occurring at home, it's often the case that no one is at home with the person, or they may be in, I don't know, another room or in the backyard, or they might just live alone.
That's right, and that's why Heart of the Nation is proud to be collaborating with an Aussie medtech company called My Medic Watch. They've developed smart watch apps that currently monitor epilepsy and falls, and very soon My Medic Watch will also provide cardiac monitoring via your smartwatch for a very small fee per month.
Yeah, this is terrific. And the beauty of this is that if the watch detects no heart rhythm, it'll send a notification out via the Heart of the Nation app to nearby responders. Now, this system to save lives is all about connecting people to AEDs as well as to each other, people with CPR skills, but importantly, who can also access an AED. It is a terrific collaboration between Heart of the Nation and My Medic Watch. This is potentially going to be a game changer in turning those unwitnessed arrests into pseudo-witnessed arrests. Well done, My Medic Watch.
Yes. Strengthening the chain of survival not only means connecting to people who are prepared to respond by bringing an AED to an emergency, but also being able to find and access one. So the more AEDs that we've got registered with Heart of the Nation, the better.
All makes sense, doesn't it? And that's where we all come in. We need you to go on a scavenger hunt looking for AEDs in the community. Sign up to become a Heart of the Nation champion, receive your champion code, and then when you see an AED out in the community, ask the owner of the AED to register it with Heart of the Nation using your champion code, or upload it yourself using your own code.
And every month, the champion with the most AEDs registered with their champion code will win a $100 Bunnings gift card. At the end of the year, the champion with the most overall registrations using their code will win an Apple iPad Pro.
I like the sound of that. That is very good. Register as a family and have a chance to win some of these great prizes thanks to Bunnings and Heart of the Nation. Get started on the scavenger hunt straight after today's class. Now, don't go anywhere, folks. Emma and the shoppers here at Birkenhead Point are inside getting a CPR lesson from Dan as we speak. And coming up, Dan is going to take you through a CPR class right here on your TV. Stay with us and learn how to save a life.
Hello, Peter Overton here. When someone is in cardiac arrest, they rely upon someone to enact the chain of survival to save their life. Call, push, shock are the three vital steps to know if you are a bystander. Keep watching the world's largest CPR class to learn more life-saving skills. You never know when you'll need them.
Welcome back to the world's largest CPR class here at Birkenhead Shopping Centre. Now, as we have heard today, more than 80% of cardiac arrests occur in the home. So 9 out of 10 victims don't survive. And that stat really hits home for the Lee family in South Australia, who were so inspirational in their efforts to give their brother, father and husband every possible chance of survival.
Go say ambulance service. What is the exact address of your emergency?
My reaction at the time was I knew that it was serious.
Hurry, stop breathing.
Okay, an ambulance is being sent.
He was choking.
Is there a defibrillator available?
His colour was not good.
Tell me exactly what happened.
I could tell by his body movement that he was in trouble. Oh my God, that's my husband. We just did what we had to do. to give him the best chance. Strathalbyn is a real family-centred community. We've been really fortunate to live here for 22 years. Andrew grew up here. We have amazing connections through the community, and this time in our lives has only been helped by the support that the community has given us. Strath's a really special place and will be a really special place to me forever. Andrew and I, we really hit it off. We certainly worked out very early in the piece that we had a love for sport, and there was a lot of banter in that space.
I remember when he first met Amy, he called me up and said, I need you to come down. I want you to meet this woman because I'm going to spend the rest of my life with her.
So that was the start of our relationship. Oh. Sorry. Andrew was an amazing person. He always had a big beaming smile on his face that was just so welcoming and friendly.
He was a very generous man. It's been said before numerous times, but he gave so very much and he expected very little in return.
We have 2 children. Madison is 21.
The earliest memories was he was always trying to get me in the kitchen, teach me how to cook family meals. His heart was as big as he was. He was such a caring, loving person.
Mitchell is 16 and he is in Year 10. He is extremely heavily involved in basketball. His future career objective is to become a doctor, and that was really strong before Andrew passed, and I think it's just given him a little bit more reason to go there. And Madison has made a decision that she wants to follow Mum's footsteps and go into as a registered nurse as well. They're amazing children. They're the 2 greatest gifts that I've got.
Still talking about Storm, to be honest.
Storm's just beginning. It was a normal day for us. My sister-in-law, Julie, and her son were staying at our home at the time, so they were with us.
He was in the kitchen and we're all here and he's making our pizzas to order, and like we're all going in and out of the space and laughing and carrying on, and he was making these amazing pizzas that he used to make.
We then went to bed. I fell asleep very early on and I was woken up and it sounded like Andrew was choking. So I came to wake my sister-in-law up.
It's one of those defining moments, like I just knew that it was not good.
She came and she instantly called an ambulance and I commenced CPR.
The support over the phone was incredible, like just walking us through everything. The dispatcher was on the phone the entire time.
The commotion woke both the children up.
As I went and left my room, and I see Maddie coming out, and we head down to the room, and Dad's there, and he looks very lifeless, and he looks very confronting.
Mitchell and Maddie were both saying, "What can we do to help?" I remember that.
Amy was not dealing, she wasn't surrounded by a crew of nurses helping her with a patient. She was surrounded by her family, working on her husband.
It is a very surreal and different experience to do it on a person compared to doing it on a dummy when you're taught.
And I just remember at one point, Mitchell just saying, "There's the AED around the corner."
I told Julie we need to go get this AED, we'll go find it.
Mitchell and I flew out the front, jumped in the car, flew around the corner, and we're trying to remember which house it was.
I went and grabbed the AED, I remember it screaming at me, it starts beeping it and open it.
It felt like they were gone 30 seconds. When I placed the pads on Andrew, the defibrillator shocked Andrew, I knew we had hope.
Once the ambulance arrived, they had They had a doctor with them and they had the crew.
And they worked on him and they gave him their best for another 40 or so minutes. I remember the moment you could sense that the doctor pulled away slightly and stood up and came and approached Amy particularly, but all of us.
I struggled terribly that the one resuscitation that I would want to be successful, I wasn't able to do.
I look back with incredible pride at how they came together as a family and their single focus was about Andrew. That love that was pushing all of us to just fight till that last bloody moment.
I can't put into words how proud I am of my children and my sister-in-law for what they did that night. You know, my hope is that the awareness and that the communities will get behind and push for AEDs to be in every housing estate. All sporting clubs, you need to be able to access them at all times. I don't think he would ever have realised the impact that he had made in people's life because Andrew was humble.
You can't put a price on hope. And if one person it makes a difference to, then that's one person whose family still gets to hold them every day.
I don't think he ever thought of himself as someone who probably gave so much.
Wow, what an incredible family. Thank you so much to Amy, Julie, Madison and Mitchell for sharing your story. Andrew's legacy will certainly live on in the amazing work you are doing to spread awareness and raise funds for more community AEDs.
Yeah. Heart of the Nation Communities is a program that we're running that helps you and your neighbours chip in for the cost of an AED package, enabling you to be connected to your communally owned AED as well as being connected to each other in the event of a cardiac emergency.
I reckon this is a really smart idea. I'm actually planning on getting one of these for my area with just 40 homes chipping in $75 each. This is probably the cheapest way to get access to not only an AED but also this incredible system to save lives. It's genius.
Yeah, look, you'll receive an AED with a tracking device to help keep it secure, an outdoor cabinet to store it in so that you and your neighbours can access it any time of the day or night. You'll get a set of replacement pads and battery at the first expiry date, as well as online education for the community and connectivity of the AED and the community via the Heart of the Nation app.
Now, we know the importance of being able to have access to all links in the chain of survival, where and when cardiac arrest strikes. And as we keep saying, with up to 80% of these events occurring in residential areas, why wouldn't you get behind this and help protect yourself and your loved ones, just in case, Richard?
Why wouldn't you do that? Yeah, just getting behind it isn't hard. To find out more about any of these great initiatives being run by Heart of the Nation, go to the Heart of the Nation website. What exactly is it again, Greg?
heartofthenation.com.au, or simply scan the QR code on the screen right now. Go to the menu at the top of the page and look for initiatives.
Now, the other thing you can do today on that website of yours, Greg, is download a certificate after completing the world's largest CPR class right here with us. So get your pillows out, people, and stay tuned to be schooled on how to save a life. This and much more coming up. Stay with us.
We had information that Lily was initially having a seizure, and obviously hearing that she didn't believe she was breathing. So obviously going to it, we don't really know what to expect, but obviously have to prepare for the worst.
Hills Crew, any car in the vicinity for concern for welfare. Our call is requesting ambulance for a 2-year-old dilated cardiomyopathy, possibly having a seizure.
Lily was blue, she wasn't breathing, not responsive. It certainly wasn't. It wasn't looking good.
Ambulance emergency, what town or suburb?
I'm in Glenhaven.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
We were just driving in the car and she's just thrown up everywhere. And now I don't know if she's having a seizure or what, or she's struggling to breathe, but she's just very sloppy.
And how old is she?
She's 2. Is there a defibrillator available? No, I'm on the side of the road. I don't have anything with me.
It's such an important resource to have defibrillators in police cars. Like every other emergency service, we respond 24 hours a day, and to be able to have access to and be able to use life-saving equipment in those first precious minutes of a medical episode of cardiac arrest makes the difference between life and death.
I'd really like to say to the officers involved that our family is really grateful for the effort they put in for that day. Getting to the hospital as quick as they did really helped their chance of survival, and if they didn't act as well as quick as they did that day, probably wouldn't be here today.
Part of my role with Heart of the Nation is to advocate for early access to AEDs. So making sure that people in the community know about AEDs, how to use them and where you can access them. Seeing a trial such as this in New South Wales police vehicles means that there will be potentially more people getting access to an AED much more rapidly.
Seeing Lily is amazing. She's happy, she's bubbly, and I can only assume this is her normal self. So really, really happy to see her.
Wow, what a story. A huge thanks to Lewis and Lily for taking the time to share their terrifying experience. Now, don't stress. We're not in trouble, although I was a little anxious there for a sec. Here to talk about a first for New South Wales is Superintendent Darren Batchelor from the Hills Police Area Command.
G'day.
Lovely to have you with us, mate.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on here.
Oh, thanks for being here, Superintendent. Now, tell us about this trial. What's actually taking place?
Well, we've just had an approval from Commissioner Webb to run a trial of AEDs in first response police cars out at the Hills, and very shortly we'll have 11 police cars, including general duties and highway patrol cars. Everyone will have an AED in them, so we will have AEDs on the road 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Gee, absolutely. We all know cops are tops, but when you girls and guys go to work every morning, you don't know what's going to happen during the day, do you?
It's one of those jobs, Richard, where someone will ring you up and say, "What are you doing today?" And you go, "I don't know. I'll see what happens. We'll see what comes over the radio, or what phone call comes in." We really don't know what we'll be doing each day, so I think that's part of the attraction for the job as well.
I'm sure it is. Yeah. Thank you so much, Darren, and congratulations on what you're doing, and thank you.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Well, yes, indeed. Yeah, Darren, thank you so much again. And I've got to say, it's initiatives like this that will make all the difference to communities. Emma Lawrence, it's the community that always seems to be at the heart of our survival stories today.
That is right. It is so important to ensure all facets of the community are working together to solve this problem. Not just emergency services and bystanders, but government leaders as well. Now, recently, the Orange City Council made a commitment with Heart of the Nation to ensure that AEDs just like this one became more visible. This was all inspired by an incredible story of survival on the rugby pitch. So in 2017, Steve Hansen was a very fit rugby ref and coach. His cardiac arrest provided the inspiration the town needed to make sure that they could find AEDs when they were needed to save more lives. Our very own Greg Page went to Orange to catch up with Steve to hear his incredible story.
Good morning, yes. My name's Greg Page from Heart of the Nation, and I applaud Orange City Council for getting in touch with Heart of the Nation and doing something that can help save lives. Having an AED as part of the chain of survival for somebody who's in cardiac arrest means that that person has every chance.
For me, it's been about 5 years now since I had my episode here at the ground. I used to coach rugby here at Orange City. That Saturday was like any other. We were playing here against CSU from Bathurst. I did think I was reasonably fit. We were a bit short of referees in the zone, so I said, look, I can do that for you. So I turned up, refereed. I was basically standing there talking to Chris Barrett, one of the first grade players, and the last thing I remember saying to Chris is, well, we better go and start warming up to play these fellas. And I just collapsed to the ground. And, sorry. I was fortunate that There was a retired nurse was sitting in the grandstand. We had a student nurse sitting in front of us. So as I collapsed, the retired nursing sister, she'd been watching me, so she came down. Student nurse came over and had 2 paramedic students, probably within 20 seconds of collapsing. And they obviously did that initial assessment and worked out that I was in cardiac arrest. Commenced CPR. We were fortunate that the Rugby club, Orange City, had partnered with Waratahs to have an AED at the canteen when we were playing. The CSU students sort of took charge. They asked for the AED to be brought out. Had 6 shots from that in combination with CPR until the ambulance guys turned up and took me off to Orange Hospital. I was still non-responsive when they took me out of the ground, and basically was being taken to Orange Hospital to be declared dead on arrival. All up, I was non-responsive for 43 minutes, and basically in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, I came back to life. And that was, I understand, a combination of the great CPR work done by everyone here. The AED kept the necessary vitals going. I've got no memory of Sunday or Monday, and then Tuesday is probably where I sort of come back into the game a bit.
How important is it now for you to share this message with other people?
I think it's massively important. Everyone should have the confidence and be comfortable about going to the AED, getting it out, putting it on. The machine will tell you what to do. It's just a matter of just follow the instructions. I think my only message would be just do something. Don't worry about whether it's right or wrong. Standing there doing nothing is totally the wrong thing to do. So just give it a crack.
Steve survived, I survived, because we were in the right place at the right time. We had people around us who recognised that we were in cardiac arrest, they were able to do CPR, and they had access to an AED. So the more of these devices that are out in the community in places where people are, that means we can create more right places at the right time for more people, and we'll see more survivors.
I understand that not many people survive the type of heart attack that I had, and I'm massively fortunate to have the quality of life that I have because of the actions of those initial 4 responders that knew exactly what they were doing. The rugby club have an AED, and then the subsequent paramedics that help. Had I collapsed anywhere else, potentially a totally different outcome. You've got to enjoy today because you might not get to see tomorrow.
Yeah, that must have been really rewarding for you, Greg. Out of these stories that affect people so personally and emotionally, good things can come and more lives can be saved.
Yeah, look, it was great catching up with Steve, and that's why we're here today, Richard, so more people can play their part in the chain of survival. And it all comes back to those 3 words: call, push, shock.
Well, those 3 crucial words get put into action next, Greg, as we join the world's largest CPR class for 2022. Right across Australia, we want to educate you and your family on how to perform CPR and use an AED. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us to learn how to save a life.
Help save more lives by having a rescue-ready AED in your community or workplace. Head to the website for all the details and watch out for the Heart of the Nation stickers now on display in 3,000 locations across Australia.
Hey guys, SPW here. Every hour, 3 Australians experience sudden cardiac arrest. Stay tuned to School Up and save a life.
Welcome back to the world's largest CPR class for 2022, coming to you from this magnificent vantage point overlooking Sydney Harbour. It's all thanks to Birkenhead Point Shopping Centre and our friends at New Sunrise. Well, the whole show comes down to this: how you at home can learn how to save a life using the chain of survival: call, push, shock.
That's right. When it comes to the call, push, shock message, we can't overstate the importance of the AED as a vital link in the chain. It's so important for bystanders to have access to an AED because waiting for an ambulance to deliver that first shock could be waiting too long.
Now, the call is important because it gets paramedics on their way as quickly as possible. The push is important because it gets the blood flowing around the body so that the body has the best possible chance of going into shock when that AED eventually does arrive.
And when somebody's in cardiac arrest, their chance of surviving decreases by 10% for every minute they go without CPR and the use of an AED. Because cardiac arrest begins as an electrical problem with the heart in most cases, that AED is so crucial because CPR alone won't revert the heart rhythm to a normal rhythm.
All right, to demonstrate how all of this comes together to form the chain of survival, we're going to hand over to this fella here. He is the head academy trainer for Surf Lifesaving New South Wales, Mr. Dan Gay, ladies and gentlemen. Good to see you.
Thank you, Richard, and we're proud to be working with you again to help provide the skills to save a life. We're going to keep today very simple because that's all CPR is. The first thing we need to do is make sure that the scene is safe and we are checking for danger. When we check for danger, anything that can harm us, we need to make sure we're safe. We then need to come in and make sure that our casualty, we want to see if they're responding or not. And we can do that with noise, and we can do it by squeezing their shoulders. So everyone try to wake up their casualty. They're not waking up. So we've got an unconscious casualty, we've got an unconscious family member. We need to send for help. And if we have it, send for that defib as well. We're doing it on a table today. In a real emergency, we do want to get people down onto the floor as well. First thing we need to check on our casualty is if their airway is clear. To check the airway, we hold the head still, we grab a hold of the jaw, and we just look in the mouth. We don't tilt the head back, we just look. If the airway was blocked, we could clear it. We're going to say the airway is clear, so the next thing we're going to do is check for breathing. And what we're checking for is normal breathing. If this person is not breathing how we're breathing right now, or we don't know what they're doing, we get into our CPR. But to check for breathing, we look, listen, and feel. So we're going to have the head tilt all the way back. We're looking down the chest, listening to the mouth, feeling just below that rib cage. Look, listen, and feel just for a couple of seconds. So we've got someone who is unconscious, unresponsive, and not breathing normally. We need to get into our CPR as quickly as possible. As Greg said, for every minute we lose about 10%. So we need to find the sternum. So everyone point to the center of your chest for me. It's not as easy on somebody else. So what we're going to do is put our hand under their armpit, draw a line to the middle of the chest, get nice and comfortable with one hand over another, holding your fingers, wrist, whatever you're comfortable with, and we're going to give 30 compressions at a rate no faster than 2 per second. Now, does anyone remember the song that we did last year?
Staying Alive.
Staying Alive. I knew you would remember, Richard. All right, so we're going to work together. Ready and go. 1, 2, 5, 10, 15, 20. Arms nice and straight. 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Now the 2 breaths, if you are willing and able to give 2 breaths to an adult casualty, we tilt that head the whole way back, supporting the jaw. 1, 2 breaths. We then go back into CPR. Now if you're unwilling or unable, you just keep compressing. You don't even need to count. But when we consider 80% of this happens at home, we're talking about CPR on family members and friends. So it is a personal choice if you give those 2 breaths. So we go back into our CPR. So whether you've got a pillow or a soccer ball, or you're using 2 fingers on a baby mannequin.
And the correct technique is to keep the elbows locked down, is that right?
Yep, and we want the shoulders over your wrists.
And you use your body weight more so than...
Absolutely. You don't want to be sitting back on an angle, you want to be over the top of the chest. Again, much easier on the floor and much more effective on the floor. Not in a bed, not in a chair.
How do you know how hard to push?
So the textbook answer is about 1/3 the depth of their chest, but just push down as far as their chest allows you and then release. And if you hear a couple of ribs crack, just keep pushing. It becomes a little bit easier, and a broken rib is a good sign of an effective compression. It's a good byproduct. 28, 29, 30, and then again, if you wish, 1, 2. When the defibrillator arrives, you can continue compressing whilst the defib is being put on. We need to first activate the defibrillator, and you can do that with either a power button, removing the lid.
Adult mode.
Follow its instructions. It is so simple.
Remove all clothing from patient's chest.
So all clothing, including underwire bras, have to come off the chest.
Handle to reveal pads.
You just follow the instructions.
Look at pictures on pads.
So my first pad.
Apply pads to bare skin, exactly as shown in the pictures. Press pads firmly.
And then I put the second pad on and I push them on nice and firm.
Do not touch patient.
So we stand back. Let the machine
Analyzing
check.
heart rhythm.
So we stand clear.
Everyone clear.
All right, everyone
Press
back.
Flashing button.
So we can see the flashing shock button here. We've detected cardiac arrests.
Shock delivered. Provide chest compressions to the beat.
Landmark, back into
The
it.
heel of one hand should be in center of chest. The other hand should be on top of first hand.
So once the pads are on, you're now on a loop and you just follow the prompts of the defibrillator until they respond to a shock or until your paramedics arrive. It is so simple to use the defibrillator.
Will all of them always tell you what to do?
Every defibrillator, doesn't matter the make or model or colour or shape or what it came out of, they all do the exact same thing. Your job is to locate, activate and operate and follow the prompts.
Well, Dan, thank you so much, and thank you so much for everyone for tuning in today. You can download your certificate of participation. Just scan the QR code on your screen right now, or you can head online to heartofthenation.com.au.
Stick around, because after the break, we're going to recap the ways that you can engage with Heart of the Nation and play your part in the chain of survival, and how just a few minutes of your time can buy somebody else many, many more years. Welcome back to the world's largest CPR class. I hope you spent that commercial break downloading your CPR certificate. If you missed it, head to the website via the QR code on screen, answer a few questions about what you've learned today, and download your CPR certificate now. Now, as we wrap it all up here at Birkenhead Point Shopping Centre, I'd love to hear what you both took away from the stories and the discussions we've had today. Emma?
Honestly, coming in, I would have had no clue what to do if someone dropped and had a cardiac arrest in front of me, but I think it's pretty simple. Call, push, shock. It's not overcomplicated. 3 simple steps that I think anyone of any age can apply.
But very important.
Yeah, that's right. And look, I think just to reinforce the fact that any attempt at resuscitation is better than no attempt, and the fact that you don't have to be qualified in CPR or first aid to save a life.
Yep, very important. Well, Greg, it's been so great to refresh our understanding of this really important message this year. We want to say a huge thank you to all of our guests who've joined us today. Rachel and Ryan from the block, and former Australian cricketer Ryan Campbell for sharing his amazing story.
And also a big thank you to Australia's leading cardiologist, Dr. Ross Walker, Dan Gay and the folks from Surf Life Saving New South Wales, Channel 9's David Rain and Tony Jones for telling those amazing stories, and of course the survivors and families kind enough to share their inspirational experiences with us today. It was so incredible.
And a huge thank you too to New Sunrise, but also to you, Richard and Emma, and everybody at Channel 9 for making this possible. It really is something that can make a huge difference, not just to those people whose lives might be saved, but their families and friends too.
Very important. So let's just recap how people can engage with Heart of the Nation.
Well, if you own an AED, register it with the Heart of the Nation network. There's nearly 3,000 locations around Australia, but we do need more. It's free and you will be part of a 2-pronged identification system. Stickers and the app, making your AED so much easier to find.
Sign up to the Heart of the Nation Champion program, help find and register those AEDs in the community. You could win a $100 Bunnings gift card each month and an iPad Pro at the end of the year.
Get together with your neighbours and purchase a Heart of the Nation Communities package for your street or neighbourhood. My neighbours and I are planning on doing exactly this. It is probably the cheapest way to own an AED.
And don't forget to download the Heart of the Nation app to find AEDs and sign up to become an alerter or responder. You don't have to be first aid qualified to deliver an AED to someone in need and help do CPR.
And finally, remember that if you find someone not responding, not breathing normally or at all, it's time to call,
push, shock. Thank you. So a round of applause for Greg, everybody. What a great man you are. Thanks, Australia.